Hello there, and welcome along to our Access Strategy Debrief for the Hilton Hotels Group. So I can see lots of you are joining the webinar now, so you're all very welcome. Whilst we're just waiting for everyone to join, could I suggest that you use the chat feature and maybe just pop in there, say who you are and where you are in the world, and say hello to each other and to myself wherever you are in the world. You just need to set it to all panelists and attendees in the Zoom webinar chat. So I will just put a quick message in there now, so that should flash up and so help you find the right place. So yeah, feel free to say hello, introduce yourselves, say where you are in the world, just while we wait for more people to come online. And see who we have joining the webinar. Always really interesting to see where in the world everyone is. And so far we've got Bolivia, Costa Rica, Jeff's in Philadelphia in the US, Radek's in Warsaw in Poland. So yeah, you're all very, very welcome. Welcome along. So just as we wait for the last few people, Philippines as well, just as for the last few people to sign in, I'll introduce myself properly. My name's Josh White and I'm your course leader. You should have seen a few emails from me previously. So it's great to be able to speak to you in person. Just so you know, and as you can probably tell from my accent, I'm based in the UK. I normally do the debriefs in the UK, although I do quite often travel to New Jersey in the US, not a million miles from Jeff in Philadelphia there. And so I occasionally do some of the debriefs from there early in the morning normally. So, but normally I'm here in the UK. Just seeing the last few people joining along. We're also broadcasting live on YouTube. So let's just run through some of the etiquette for these debriefs, because this first one in the course is always a bumper one. We've got so much content to get through. So just so you know, your mics are all muted. So if you try and talk to me, I won't be able to hear you. You can communicate through the chat box, which some of you have used there. And as we go through, there's also a Q&A feature. It's similar to the chat, works a very similar way. And you can ask me questions in there. And then at certain points of the debrief, I'll log in and see what you've been asking. I try and keep one eye on it whilst I'm doing the debrief. I've got two screens set up here. So I try and keep an eye on both, but it's sometimes quite hard to concentrate. So I do make a point of just stopping and seeing what questions have come in. If you can't find the Q&A, don't worry, pop it in the chat and we'll find it. So yeah, that's kind of how this works from a technical point of view. I would add as well that this is all recorded, and the slide deck, everything gets sent out to you afterwards. Normally takes about 24 hours for program support to process that, and you'll get an email with a link to this live recording and a link to download all of the slides I'm going to run through today. So don't worry if we go quite quickly, you'll be able to come back and reference everything for quite a long time, actually. So it's available. Again, a little bit more on housekeeping. As I've said before, please introduce yourselves. If you've just joined us and signed in, you can use the chat box just to say hi, where you are in the world. It's always interesting just for everyone to see where everyone else is based. So that's the general kind of bits and pieces out of the way. Let's talk a little bit more about the actual agenda for our discussion today. So this is the first of our debriefs. So I know up till now you've been taking part in discussions, you've been doing a lot of simulations on PPC and search marketing. And then this is the access strategy. It's the first assignment you've done using Hilton Hotels, our chosen brand case study. So I hope that's kind of been an interesting change in pace for you to start working on a specific example. So what we're going to do today is talk through Hilton Hotels just briefly, a bit of general background. Obviously, you've all been doing some research of your own. I'm also going to give a general overview of the access strategy. I'm not going to replay the whole course that you've studied with Professor Rogers and those pieces and videos and modules, but we will just kind of refresh our memory in talking about access strategy. And then we'll get into the two big main areas. We're going to look at your questions to the assignment. And what I do is I picked out some sample answers that are representative of how everyone answered the assignment. And some additional examples as well. And then we also sort of during all of this, I'm going to try and refer back to how I feel the access strategy applies to Hilton hotels and add something to the original theory. But lastly, question D was how you feel access strategy could apply to your own business. And that's always a fascinating area. There were lots of answers there. So I'm going to try and go quickly to give us time to review some of your own answers. And it's always interesting for you to share with each other. So let's press on. Hilton Hotels, I'm sure now, as you've seen from your research work, it's the flagship brand within a wider portfolio of brands. We do focus just on Hilton Hotels, not on all the brands, because for each of these strategies, it would just get too complicated if we were trying to look at every single brand. But for Hilton Hotels, they have around 600 hotels in about 85 different countries. And they're a mixture. They're owned by the brand itself. They're independently managed, or they're part of a franchise. Now, the main target audience for Hilton, this is an interesting one. And for those of you who maybe have kind of chosen this module on my advice because there's a B2B element, business to business, that's because Hilton's main audience is actually the corporate market. So they're targeting corporate employees and business travelers. But there is also some wider leisure and consumer B2C type market share for them as well. Hiltons are often close to airports, convention centres and major cities. This overlaps with their business sector targeting. And as you can imagine, if you've stayed at a Hilton, you know where they sort of sit in the marketplace. It's sort of higher pricing, premium pricing, and trying to position this full service. And that's why it makes them quite a good brand to look at for these different strategies, because they are very active in trying to embrace digital methods to help them retain and grow their market share. For example, in terms of innovating digitally, you will by now have seen about the Hilton Honors loyalty program and the mobile app that's been utilized 19 million times for digital check-in since its inception. And as a spin-off from that, you probably will have heard as well about the digital key innovation. So you can unlock your chosen room when you arrive at the hotel using the app on your cell phone. So those are two examples of how Hilton, and they're the two most common ones we will come back to again and again, of how Hilton is trying to innovate in digital channels. But Hilton sits within this wider hotel and leisure and vacation sector. And there's some major things that have been going on in this sector in the last few years, and some major challenges which Hilton is trying to face. And these are really the juicier, bigger reasons why I chose Hilton as the brand to look at for our group within the course. And the biggest single one is Airbnb. I'm sure you're all familiar with how Airbnb started as kind of a spare room letting website and has now grown into a massive player in the travel space. And as a result of that, Airbnb promote not just accommodation, but local knowledge and to help you have an experience when you travel. So travelers are really starting to expect this level of a personalization around experience. These are both a couple of things we're going to come back to in future strategies, with the experience around engaged strategy and personalized to them and customized strategy. There's wider use of virtual reality and augmented reality in the hospitality sector that's starting to creep in. But another key area is all major hotel brands rely on what we can call aggregators, meta search, OTAs, online travel agents. And these are digital intermediaries. And if I mention names like Expedia, Skyscanner, Booking.com, Late Rooms, you will understand the types of websites I'm talking about. And all hotel brands rely on these intermediaries to help sell their unsold hotel rooms in return for paying a commission. But these intermediaries have become so powerful that the hotel brands are now competing with them on a search for their own hotels. So how they handle this relationship is really important. And that's why loyalty and customer loyalty programs are so key in the hotel sector, because Hilton may acquire a first-time customer through booking.com, but they want to then make them come and rebook directly with Hilton so that Hilton doesn't have to pay that commission every time. And lastly, reputation management. We'll come back to this in a future strategy as well, especially social media. You're going to see really what a minefield customer service in the hotel sector is on social media for Hilton in future weeks. So those are some broader trends within the hotel sector that I think Hilton are facing. Let's turn now to the access strategy, the first of the 5 customer network strategies that we're going to study together. Just a few more people have joined us online. Just quickly to say to you, if you want to say hi and introduce yourselves in the chat box, you should be able to find that. You just need to set it to all panelists and attendees. And also all the slides and all the full recording of today will be sent to you afterwards as well. So don't worry if you missed the beginning, that's absolutely fine. And use the Q&A box if you want to ask any questions. So I just noticed a few more people have come on board. So access strategy, and this really is trying to identify these routes to market through digital channels where brands can help customers get better access to their products or services. And it's helping people, access with digital interactions, very much driven through the growth towards mobile usage. And I think everything shifting to this mobile first approach has created this need for immediacy and on demand. Our expectations as consumers have increased exponentially. We expect everything now and we want to be able to do it on our phone. And how annoying is it when you go on an e-commerce website and you realize it's going to be really fiddly to actually try and buy something on this e-commerce site on your phone? And how exciting is it when you go to another e-commerce website that's got that process really well designed and made really simple? So that's, maybe another example of how brands are having to change how they connect with their audiences through digital channels and ways that they can add value. A bit more of a definition of access strategy. It's being able to reach customers in the moment. And it's all about whether shifting the balance of power from brands to consumers. It's when the consumer wants to access this information or this service, you're there ready to respond. So that means you've got to be relevant and in the right context and the right location, and create these on-demand services. It often means giving consumers more access to digital data and content and interactions. For example, by making processes more self-serve rather than the consumer relying on a long-winded offline process. Let's take it online and let people do it for themselves and feel in control. It's about being customer-centric, being available and ready when and where they need us, but also knowing who they are and remembering consumers across channels. Basing all of this around the customer's digital behavior. So being present on channels that the customer uses, not the ones that we decide we want to use. And really being there at every stage of that pathway to purchase. And going back to the first point, every one of those micro moments that Professor Rogers talked about and that Google has identified of where people are really starting to think about doing something and go online for different reasons to research, you need to be there every step. So defining our access strategy helps us decide when and where and how we should be ready to step in and be available, and also when not to. So you would have studied as part of the program. I'm not going to go through all these in detail, but these are some of the things that you looked at in that module, being everywhere and always on-demand services, mobile wallets, which obviously Hilton honors, is a great example of that. Looking at location-based, that path to purchase and micro moments, showrooming, omnichannel being there across all of the channels from call center to website to physical, and also looked at wearables. So there are some challenges with the access strategy and really planning this and making it work. And I do think actually of the 5 strategies that we look at as part of this course, access strategy is probably one of the harder ones to get correct. This, as well as the collaborate strategy towards the very end of the course, I think the beginning and the end are often the hardest places to get right. And that's because of this speed, of this insatiable, need for access and making sure you're being there in the moments of need, but also the scale and complexity of user journeys. We talk about these micro moments on a user journey. Journeys are so complicated now. They used to be quite a nice linear model or a funnel that just went through these steps. It's so complex. This is a graph I'm going to show you, which I have borrowed from an organization called Sitecore. They're a web development platform and do a lot of work around